Hey there, how there, ho, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming to yet another Stone Cold Hockey video about the 78-79 Boston Bruins and trying to do it here. A very stacked Patrick division as the Rangers, Islanders, and Flyers with 51 points. Atlanta's got 45 points, which would put them in the playoffs in any of the divisions other than their own. They're 10 points clear of a second place Smythe division for Vancouver and 14 clear of St. Louis for third. But that's the breaks. As you see, the top three teams in each division would make the playoffs in 79. Whoever won their divisions would get buys into the quarterfinals, and then the other 8 teams ranked from 1 to 8 by total points, and not necessarily your division order. By total points, you would be going to the preliminary round. Boston would be ranked number 3 in the preliminary round behind the Islanders and Flyers because those guys have 50 plus points, but they're not in the leaders in the division. That's the Rangers. So right now, Rangers, Chicago, Buffalo, and Montreal would make the playoffs, would make the quarterfinals. Islanders, Philly, Vancouver, St. Louis, Boston, Toronto, LA, and Washington would all make the playoffs. They go to the preliminary round. By goal scoring, Marcel Dion has 33 goals, Guy Chouinard 32, Guy Lafleur 28. Points wise, Brian Trottier looking pretty good with Marcel Dion and Guy Lafleur 2-3 in that mark. None of that matters. Penalty minutes 161 by Tiger Williams, Dave Schultz second, and Dave Hutchinson third. Terry Riley's 15th. Goals against, John Davidson looking good, Billy Smith and Ken Dryden. Man, Dryden's below 500, but yet the goals against is 249. I didn't even realize that. Well, nevertheless, our goalies, well, Gary Cheevers is 15th at 11-8-1. The other two have not played as much. So you see the standings and all that. At home, we're 15-3-1. On the road, we're just terrible. 3 road losses. That is actually tied for the third lowest. Philly and Chicago have only lost twice at home. Rangers and Islanders have also lost 3 times at home. So yeah, 7 road wins. We suck. Highlights wise, you see the best wins, West defeats. 23 hat tricks. Dennis Polonich had a hat trick for Detroit, but they lost, and so too did. Bridge scoring, most memorable game, St. Louis, Minnesota at 7-6 on November the 1st. As Staniowski beat Milosh in a 13-goal fest. The number 2 team, also St. Louis, Minnesota, this time on January 3rd when it was a 14-goal fest and you over Milosh. So basically, St. Louis just loves to beat Minnesota in high-scoring games. Atlanta, Detroit on December 13th when Detroit was up 4-1 and looked good to take down the Flames, but nobody told the Flames that. They scored 5 straight goals on the road. Lysiak, Houston, Chouinard, Lawrence, and Prodevol also tied for third. Washington, Detroit from January 6th when all teams lost. Washington was down 5-3 in the third period, but they scored 3 straight goals. So we're on Saturday the 13th. We play our first game of the 3-game block in Pittsburgh. Danny Huron in net for Pittsburgh. Gilles Chabert for us. Trying to do our job and all that. I really like Pittsburgh was 5 games above 500. Boston was far ahead. Gary Cheevers usually is our number 1 goalie, and Jim Petty has played a few games, but he's done decently. Pittsburgh, Danny Huron, the number 1 guy. The recently deceased Greg Millen, the backup, and Gordon Laxton also there. For our black and gold team, not Pittsburgh's black and gold team, ours, we have Rick Middleton play right wing. Middleton, who we fleeced from the Rangers for Ken Hodge Sr. Peter McNabb, great player who would be a good commentator, but lost his battle with cancer. John Animal Wensek, who's been doing decently. Sean Rattel, who we also fleeced from the Rangers in the Phil Esposito trade. Wayne Cashman, pair of goals in Game 7 in real life against Montreal, but failed to do anything. Taz O'Reilly, Don Marcotte, Bobby Schmaltz, Al Secord before he went to Chicago. Bob Miller, who looks like Scrooge from Saved by the Bell. If you watched the last video, you know that I'm not lying. Dwight Foster, Kitchener, former Kitchener Ranger. Al Sims, Brad Park, who we also got in the Espel trade. Rangers Bruins, Dick Redmond, Ricky Smith, Gary Doak, Stan Jonathan. And for stuff this, Mike Shaker Walton, who's been putting up some numbers. Tom Sonnian, Dennis O'Brien, Mike Milbury, the year before his famous shoe incident and becoming a dickwad. Bill Bennett, also there. Pittsburgh has Greg Malone There, Peter Lee, former Ottawa 67's icon. Rick Kehoe, who was a decent player. Russ Lonsberry, former Flyer. I remember him having him on the Flyers team in 75. Ron Schutt, George Ferguson, Oris Kindrachek, the weird name, but it was amazing. Greg Shepard, former Bruin. Pete Mahovlich, who did okay in Pittsburgh after leaving the Habs. Randy Carlyle without the helmet on, who the Leafs gave up to Pittsburgh, and then Carlyle won a Norris Trophy for Defenseman of the Year. Ron Stackhouse, who was a decent defenseman there. Blair Chapman, Wayne Biachin, Jacques Cossette, Dale Talon, the former number 2 pick in 1970 by the Canucks. Tom Bladen, former Flyer, we used to have him. Dave the Hammer Schultz, I remember him. Russ Anderson, Colin Campbell, yes, that Colin Campbell, the former head of discipline. Kim Davis, Bob Paradise, Mike Meeker, and Tom Price. 3 minutes into the game, blue dice is ours, red dice for the road team, red for the home team. 5 minutes later, another chance, O'Reilly. 4 minutes later, battles. It's O'Brien. The first chance, Kindrachek, no. And we killed the Stone on Roddy shot. Last moments of the first period, they deliver a hit. No damage to either side. No score. We could be friends. Much later in the second period. Chance for Pittsburgh. No. 3 minutes later. Battle, aggression. And a chance for us, O'Reilly. No. 6 more minutes. Let's go. Randy Carlyle. Colin Campbell, Gus Monster. 1-0. 5 more minutes. The Titan Killer! Al Secord, more famous than Laura Secord. Well, in America she is, but Laura Secord is a Canadian stone cold bitch in the right way. He scores his first of the season from Parker McNabb, makes it 1-1. After 2. 2 minutes into the third. Possession. Okay, power, but not for us. It is a penalty on O'Reilly. And we score a Ronnie shot from Kindrachek and Pete Mahovlich. 3 minutes later, let's go. Carlisle again from Chapman. The second goal for Carlisle. Defensive scoring, what. We get a penalty, O'Reilly. Of course we do. Unless Lonsberry says it's for the rest of the title, but we're coming after you. So it looks like we're dead in the water. Not so fast. Gentleman Jean Rattel has 15 from Middleton. It's now 4-2. Not unfortunately. Hit. Now time for the United. They got penalized. Bladen. We have a chance. We had a chance, and the Pittsburgh Penguins send us home 4-2. Unfreaking real. How the hell did we lose to the Penguins? Randy freaking Carlisle. Every Pittsburgh goal was scored by someone with the first name with a letter R. You got a Randy, a Rod, and a Russ. So rules state that if I lose or tie in the showdown, then that means we have to simulate the next game. And we played Los Angeles, but we have to simulate because I lost the game. Others beat Atlanta. We beat LA 3-2 as Chabert beat Lazard. LA goals by Sil Apps Jr. and Goldup. But Dickie Redmond, Sean Rattel, and Peter McNabb scored the goals. So we get to play the next game. Pittsburgh beats Buffalo. Big win for us in a sense because Pittsburgh helped us out because we're fighting for that play. Islanders, Phillies tie. Vancouver beats Washington. Monday Night Hockey, Minnesota Rangers tie. So we go to St. Louis. Atlanta beats Philly. Big win for them. Toronto crushes Colorado like they should. Cupcakes beat Washington like they should. Minnesota beats Pittsburgh. And Montreal, Vancouver tie. So we'll go to St. Louis. And Gary Cheevers is still not set in stone. So it's Gilbert and Ed Stanikowski, who's the backup to Phil Meyer. I did not know Phil Meyer played for the Blues. I know he played for the Atlanta Flames and then moved on to the Flyers, but I didn't know he had a pit stop in St. Louis. Terry Richardson and Doug Grant, the backup goalies, too. So, yeah. The rules are, when we do the 3-game thing, is that we talk about the Blues, but we won't talk about the Bruins again. Brian Sutter, icon. Bernie Federko with 11 straight seasons of 50-plus assists. He was an icon for St. Louis. I think they retired his number, didn't he? Gary Unger, who was the Ironman before when Doug Jarvis took that mark. Wayne Babich. Larry Pate, Kurt Bennett. Remember him playing for the Flames? Bob Murdoch, who was going to be coaching the Jets. Ingy Hammerstrom, who was traded from the Leafs to the Blues and basically was given an unflattering comment by Harold Ballard when he was with the Leafs saying that he could take 6 eggs in the corner and not break any of them, saying he was a chicken sweet. His words, not mine. Jack Brownscheitel, Mike Suk, Mike Walton. That can't be the same Mike Shaker Walton. John Smirk, Larry Giroux, Bob Stewart, Tony Curry, Harvey Bennett. Mike Crombeen, who was a decent guy. In a couple of years, Crombeen would make St. Louis fans love him. Bob Hess, Barry Gibbs, not part of the Bee Gees. Doug Pelissari, Brian Ogilvy, Rick Bowness, who would soon be a coach himself. Bruce Affleck, no relation to Ben or Casey. JB Masters, Nick Lumby. Here we go. 15 minutes. Peaceful. And then, we have a chance? No. 2 more minutes later. Chance for Steelers. Don't turn away his 6 from O'Reilly and Dwight Foster, 1-0. 5 minutes later. There's a chance. Oh, McNabb gets whacked by Pate. Do we score? They kill the zone on McNabb and Doak. Another steal. Wayne Babich, Pate, and Unger. Let's get 1 more. Three minutes later. Injury? Oh, ruined their attack and power play a bit, but we get it clean with no penalty. Early on, we can't score. 2 more minutes. Especially, Buffalo and Boston will take the penalty. It's alright, Taz. And they do it. Brian Center, 26, and Giroux and Mike Walton. Outside of one. They drop this up. Action. But we score. Wayne Cashman, he crashes it. His 15 from McNabb and Schultz. 2-2. Much later. Let's score. Peter Puckin-Eater. Yeah, that should be it. His 25th from Miller and Foster. 3-2. Much later. Enforcers. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit, 2. And we're up 3-2 after 40 minutes. Killing the clock. Scores. Peter Puckin-Eater. His second of the night from O'Brien and Wenzik. 4-2. 1 minute later. They have a chance? No. It's 16 o'clock and we're getting penalized. O'Reilly. Damn you. But we kill the zone on Bob Murdoch and Bob Stewart. The Jeanettes are coming this way. We're up by 2. And John Rotaro slides it and it's at the second of the night from Sims and McNabb, and we go to St. Louis and win 5-2. We were down 2-0. We were down 2-1. Okay. Cashman, McNabb, and Rotaro. So it wasn't much of a comeback, if you will. But we win 5-2. It was the other game we beat the clock. All right, so we beat St. Louis, and we are not playing the next game. Colorado, this is in Chicago. Detroit beat Pitt. Montreal beats LA, and the Rangers beat the Islanders. So we play St. Louis. The only problem is the rule also states, there's this rule. If we lose or tie, we have to simulate the next game until we win. But it also marks if we play the same team twice in a 3-game window, then we have to simulate. And we tie St. Louis. Philly beats Buffalo, which helps us out. Cheevers and Stanowski came in at. We were up 4-1. Damn it. Goals by Cashman, Walton, Middleton, and Marcotte. And then St. Louis Pate, then Crombeen for Durko, and then Sutter screwed us over. Mike Bolton gets another assist. So that tie means we have to go into the next game and simulate. Atlanta beat Chicago. Colorado tied Minnesota. Vancouver shuts out Toronto. Wow. Detroit and Vancouver, Washington tie. All right. So our game against Boston, Buffalo has to be simulated, right? And we lose. Chambers loses to Don Edwards. Of course, we lose to Kitchener Ranger. Rattel, Schmaltz, O'Reilly, and Johnny Wednesday. Buffalo goes with Gare, Robert, Savard, Schoenfeld, Martin, McKegney, and Ramsey. 7-4. So we lose. So that means we have to go Toronto 4-4. So that means we have to simulate the next game. Montreal crushed it. Islanders crushed Chicago. So yeah, Philly Rangers. Rangers beat Philly. Yeah, looking pretty good. Atlanta, Boston. So we would play Atlanta, but because we lost the next game, the game to Buffalo, we crushed Atlanta 6-1. Bouchard gets taken by Cheevers. Atlanta go by Lalonde, but we scored Cashman, Marcotte, Wensick, Marcotte, Secord, and Wensick. Wensick pair goals. Others beat up on Chicago. Montreal ties St. Louis. So our third game, we don't know yet. Take a look at me now. 2-2s. Rangers beat Washington. Yeah, well, all 3 games were 2-2s. So we played the Islanders. Buffalo beat the Rangers. Wow. Colorado won. Wow. Detroit beats LA. Wow. And Montreal beats Atlanta. So, yeah. 3 of the 4 games already in progress are already in play. All right. So we play the Islanders, our third game on the network. And it's going to be Gary Cheever. It's going to be Shil Chabert and Glenn Chico Resch. Chico and the man for the cupcakes. Shil Chabert. So anyway, the Islanders will have to go to Boston. They were hot, 51 wins. They were pretty much the heavy favorites to win the championship, but they fell flat to the Rangers of all teams. Mike Bossy, great goal scorer. He could score like 50 goals in a season. He had a lot of 30-goal seasons, 50-goal seasons, but unfortunately, a back injury just ruined his career. Brian Trottier, great First Nations player and fantastic centerman and all that. He was a goal scorer's delight. Clark Gillies, the big boy and all that. Dennis Potvin, who was a great defenseman all time. Bob Bourne, okay guy. Wayne Merrick going in. Bobby Nystrom, who was a fantastic player who the next year scored the cup-winning goal in overtime. John Tonelli, who passed Nystrom. Mike Kasicki. Jerry Howard, Billy Harris, the first ever Islanders draft pick. Warren Henning. Stefan Pearson, good player. Dave Lewis, who would be traded to LA for Butch Goring and would later coach the Red Wings. Ed Westfall, the first major Islander icon, even though he played for Boston for 2 cups. He went to the Islanders and he still is around. Bob Werber, Pat Price, Jerry Hart, Bert Marshall, Reggie Hansen, and Hector Marini. So let's see what we can do at home. 4 minutes later. It is good. LC cleared from Mike Gilberry. Houston. Much later. We're killing the clock. But they score. Mike Bossy is 28 from Tonelli. So you know who Mike freaking Bossy is. 5 minutes later. Battle. Russian. Injury. Chico being replaced by Smith. A 5-minute major Milbury hurt Chico Resch. But they get the up for 5 minutes. And John Tonelli scores from Kasicki and Trottier, makes it 2-1. Well, that sucked. Well, Billy Smith. Here I am, stuck in the Middleton with you. His 16 from McNabb and O'Reilly. That means Chico comes back in the net. 2 minutes later. They have a chance to tie. Oh, battle. Aggression. We ruined their defense by a few minutes. Dennis O'Brien, but it wasn't worth it. No, it wasn't. Score. Kasicki on the power play from Potvin and Pearson makes it 32 for the Cupcakes. 4 minutes later, control, defense, action. Elsie Court. Look it again from McCall and McNabb. Oh. Right? Right. Peter. Boston, 1 sec. And they'll kill the soda on Born and Henny. Battle. Double hit. 5 minutes. Battle of Forster. After 2 hits. Much later. Let's go! It's alright. Quickly saved by the bell. Screech his knife from Park Middleton. I might as well just give it to you right here. See this picture? See the hair? See the hair? See the hair? On number 14, Bob Miller. You tell me that's not Screech hair. Because that is definitely Screech from Saved by the Bell, his hair. So Bob Miller from Park and Middleton. I know of what I speak of. Others or tie it up. Denny Potvin, poof. From Trottier Merrick makes it 4-4. We got to be careful. And the others are going to go to the box. Tonelli, we have a chance. We can't score. McNabb tries. They can't score. And guess what? It's a freaking tie. You're thinking, oh, it's overtime. Nope. Fun fact. Since in 1942, the NHL eliminated regular season overtimes because of the war effort. But they stupidly decided not to put regular season overtimes in till 1983 of all years. Not even the 60s or 70s. So regular season overtime didn't exist until 1983. Postseason overtime, obviously, had to exist. 4-4. Boston and the Islanders. Well, we suck. We tied. Atlanta beats Toronto, and St. Louis beats Vancouver. We go to Montreal. We would be going to Montreal. But because we tied, we can't. Vancouver beats Colorado. Detroit beats Buffalo. Philly beats Minnesota. We tied Montreal. Dryden and Cheevers. We were up 3-1. Rattel, 1 second, then Rattel his 20th. But Montu scoring 2 and Yvan Lambert scoring the goal. Islanders beat the Cupcakes. No, the Islanders beat the Rangers. LA beats Pittsburgh and Washington beats Chicago. So because we lost, while we tied, we have to play LA. We lose 8-5 to LA. Yikes. We got to keep going. We must go. We must keep going, guys. Through January, our game against Chicago has to be simulated. We win 3-1 over Chicago. Pfizer's losing the Cheevers. So Chicago has almost lost and tied as many games as each other. 17, 16, 16. Rattel with 2 goals. Peter McNabb with the other. Phil Russell. Stevie. Rangers win. Pittsburgh wins over Montreal. Wow. St. Louis and Washington. So we do play Chicago again, but because we had to simulate that game against Chicago, I can play it. So the next game for us will be against the Blackhawks at home on February the 1st. So after February, we're in the lead in the Adams, Buffalo, Minnesota. Toronto's fading. Montreal, LA, Washington, Pittsburgh. Well, it's a battle for a second. Detroit sucks. Chicago, Vancouver, St. Louis. Looking good. And Rangers, Islanders, Philly. So anyway, well, we're doing good in our division for now. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.